Video. All right, here we go.
It's a good thing we know that.
It is a good thing. Gave you that disclaimer already.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, Bill Watt. All right.
I'm fine, and you?
Good.
Hello, everyone that is joining us. We're going to wait a few minutes to kind of let people trickle in as the meeting opens. Welcome to our second site tour of the year. We're excited to have you all here. We would like this to be interactive, so if you could keep your camera on throughout the presentation, we will host a Q&A at the end, and we ask you would ask the question yourself so we can have a little bit more of a discussion. So just keep that in mind. And then for those of you that may be new to the industry or to BIA, NextGen is an affiliate of the BIAOC. We are a group of young professionals that, we do different types of events throughout the year. We do morning buzzes, we do site tours, which you're participating in. We do networking events. So if you have anybody in your office that you would like to participate in NextGen, reach out to any of us on the call and we'll be happy to get them into our group. So we'll give it maybe a few more minutes.
Yeah, I don't have anybody waiting in the waiting room right now.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to pass it over to Ryan, and she is going to introduce our panel for today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. So from our Trumark team, we have Richard Douglas. He's our division president for the Southern California office. Rob Corbin, he's our VP of Ops, and Carol Sharieff, our VP of Sales and Marketing. And then from our sales team, we have Tracy Morrison. She is actually selling at West Village. I think that's everyone from our team. Oh, and myself. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm the marketing manager over at Trumark. So I will give it away to you, Richard. Let me share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Oh. You guys see what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so why don't you just go ahead and, all right, so you play a video first, or what's your, tell me.
Yeah, we'll start with the video. That way
Okay.
people get the concept, and then we'll let you go into all.
Right on.
We all have that perfect idea of home, a combination of this kitchen, that layout, every room and floor just how you picture it. Now imagine if you could actually have it. That's where Trumark Homes comes in. Introducing Truflex, a new design layout concept that's only available at West Village, Trumark's newest neighborhood, consisting of 62 townhomes coming to Central Park Village, just minutes from downtown Brea. It's what we call the convenience of choice. With no set floor plans, creating the home of your dreams is as simple as selecting a design layout for each floor. In other words, you can customize and build a home in your vision. That means no waiting for a new sales release to find your plan of choice, and a unique opportunity to get exactly what you pay for. Here's how it works. Step 1. Select your first floor Truflex design layout from 2 options. Next, choose from 3 Truflex design layouts for your second floor. Then, make the final decision for your third floor layout, choosing between 4 distinct Truflex design options. That's 24 different ways to create your dream home. In this exciting location minutes from stunning parks, trails, and prime shopping and dining spots. And it's all in your hands. It's our way of letting you embrace the side of yourself that lives boldly, and it starts with making your home yours. To learn more about these exciting customizable townhomes, please visit our website at westvillagebrea.com and join the priority registration list to be the first to receive updates on construction, product, and special events.
All right.
Okay. Okay, great. So let's, I'll start with the basics, because you have to understand the basics here to kind of follow along with what Carola, who's going to present sort of the marketing and programming component, and then Rob will who's our ops guy, is going to talk about the construction part of it. The construction part's really important, but what you're seeing there is effectively the project kind of being half built. You can see the part that's being built. And like a lot of the communities that we've done at Trumark is a lot of them are infill. Like we use a lot of words you guys have already heard, but we're going to kind of get to the texture behind some of these words. So infill products, very dense, dense in the sense of for sale housing, which is up to 20 units per acre. Nothing completely crazy, super dense, but dense, 22 DUs per acre. The one thing that this site is not, and so it's one thing to construct dense attached products in a nice square flat piece of land, but when you introduce grade into it, it starts to become much more complicated. And this site, you can't really see it on this aerial photo, but it didn't really slope like north to south or east to west. It sloped kind of northeast to southwest. So if you took the little piece that's at the very bottom of that screen, the bottom of the screen there, right there, and then you just sort of went to the very top middle of the screen. Yeah, follow that arrow. That's the way the grade went. So it gets a little more complicated when you got to take those little boxes and introduce grade. So I just wanted to describe the nature of sort of the platform that we were building on. Now, it's really important to also talk a little bit about, again, this is this project. To understand this project, you need to understand a project that we constructed before it. And that project, and we're just closing out of, that's a project down the Platinum Triangle in Anaheim, obviously where we're seeing a lot of great activity today. And it was very dense. It was 2 product lines, and that actually was tabletop flat. But if you took this product if we took that product I'm talking about in Anaheim, and we showed an elevation of it on the screen, and then we took this product and showed an elevation of it on the screen, just like the video and everything you just saw, and we looked at them, we say, gee, they look remarkably the same. They're again the same density, relatively the same sort of product type. But if we went into the pieces, the components of the one that we built in Anaheim, which was its genesis was probably like 5 years ago from its initial design when it went through the city and got entitled. If you took all of the pieces and parts of that and how to assemble it and compare it to this product, it would literally be night and day. And we learned a lot of the product that we had in Anaheim was so overly complex to construct. We learned a lot of really tough lessons, and we're quite capable and happy to talk about the awards we win and the great things we do, but we really also have to talk about some of the hard lessons that we learned. And on that project in Anaheim, we basically learned that it was so complicated. We overwhelmed the ability of our framing crews and our field managers and the foremen of our framing crews to kind of get through it. And it just got tougher and tougher from there. We eventually recovered, figured out how to kind of get through it, but we in effect said, we can never do this again. This is just way too tough. And that led us to what you're seeing here. And the differences were just again, this is pretty basic stuff, but it's all going to, kind of come together down the road here. The product we had in Anaheim, maybe it was the width of the product. In other words, when you drive in the garage, door, it's, garage, usually the garages are 20 feet wide, but sometimes your product might be 21 feet, 7 inches wide, a split dimension. And we said, well, why would we do that? Let's just make them all 20 wide or 22 wide or 21 wide. Let's make them on this standard module where we don't need to cut the lumber. So we literally started with, how do we simplify these things? How do we make them? How do we decomplex them so that we so our costs don't go up and we fight all the things that we fight? Now note that that was, the product in Anaheim was probably 3 years ago when we started, 2.5 years ago. We had labor challenges then and material challenges then, nothing compared to now. When you think about it, we thought it was very difficult then, and it's much more difficult today. So, a long way of saying that all those, the idea that you're going to introduce complexity back into your buildings is, more insane today than it was yesterday. So anyway, so we started with basically the idea we need to, we kind of keep these things simple, actually keep them the same size. So the analogy that we use, and this is where it kind of comes over to Carol and Rob, is, and this started this way. If we're all creative types, and if we were all sitting around a table in a conference room post-COVID here, and I said, we take 3 shoe boxes and stack them up side by side by side, 3 identical shaped platforms, if you will. Convert those now that, let's say these are now 3 distinct living units, 3 same size, same module. So they're super simple, nothing simpler than a box, right? We're just going to build a box, but now we are going to introduce how do we differentiate those 3 boxes so they live differently, so that they, one might be for a family, one might be for, the ultimate single person, happening pad, whatever it is. How do we differentiate those simple modules so that we can, appeal to a diversity of buyers? And how do we do it in the most efficient way possible for all the building infrastructure, plumbing, electrical, everything else, and make them super cool? So we're going to take the most basic box and we're going to make it differentiated from the box right next to it and make them super cool. And we're going to use all of the most, and we're going to use simplified methods to do it. That was the objective. I will turn it over to, actually, I'm skipping over a couple of things. Okay, on the site plan, I'm going to go kind of faster because really, this is not about the site plan. This product's a great product. City of Brea, great city, close to jobs, all that kind of stuff. So the land buy was, we're trying to buy a good location, put a good product in there. There's not a whole lot of, heavy rocket science to this. You're looking at the site plan. Again, the technical parts of this was trying to deal with this density and the grades to it. You can see a paseo right in the middle of it. So we kind of had to jazz it up, take a dense site. Actually, one of the things that's on here, that's not there. There's a picture of the paseo. I mean, it's cool. You guys see a lot of pictures. I'm not saying it's not cool in any way. The real thing we're talking about that you guys should be interested in is just how we put this product together. Now, I will add, if we go back to the site plan real quick, so go backwards. Sorry, Ryan. The other thing we did here, again, modularized, panelized, on the upper right-hand corner where it says stack flats. Those are affordable, moderate priced within the city of Brea. And we got 27 units per acre on those, and they're flats. Those are not a modular design, but they're still panelized. So anyway, I'm kind of setting up Carol to talk about the programming here. Again, we're taking, going back away from the stack flats into the yellow, oranges, greens, a standard 6-unit, 5-unit side-by-side townhomes. Every one of those little boxes you see there are the same exact size, same exact module. And yet when you walk in and she'll walk you through them, they're completely different in how they live and how they're infrastructured. That's for Carol and Rob to explain to you. But I'll start with something that was very difficult that we wanted to simplify and make it totally cool. That was the objective. Carola.
Thanks, Richard. So, we talked about, somebody asked me the other day, well, how difficult was this to explain to the customers? It was a bit challenging to explain, but we really, when we all sat together and said, well, how are we going to sell 62 homes that are identical? We thought, okay, well, we're going to have to figure out a way to differentiate them. We had to change, and Rob will explain that, the thought process of the whole industry, basically, of all our vendors, our subs, and even within us, because we actually had 9 floor plans. There was no longer, plan 1, plan 2, plan 3. We actually had 9 floor plans, and each buyer purchased 3 floor plans. So when we sat down with them, that was exactly what we did. We sat down with them and said, okay, on floor 1, sorry about that, Ryan, you have 2 choices. You have, either, which is pretty similar to every other 3-story town that you ever see. You either have the den or the bedroom. Now, another thing you'll notice in any of these plans is we have no ducts, because in order to be able to change, we had to do, individual air conditioning units. Rob can explain a little bit more about that, because if not, we couldn't have changed the, we couldn't have ducts because we couldn't change the configurations. And as you got to the second floor, they were able to either have, if they preferred, the kitchen at the front with the deck, or some other people preferred the great room of the deck at the front, or you could have an additional bedroom. And Tracy will go through, the types of people that chose these different things. So you could actually have from 1 to 5 bedrooms. Luckily, that really didn't happen necessarily. Nobody did a 1 bedroom, but you could have done it. And then at the top, you had the typical master with 2 bedrooms. You had the master with the bonus that a lot of people did. You had the dual master, or you had this super cool master bedroom that was, for the bachelor pad type of home. But even if you did take the master bedroom at the top, you could always have 3 bedrooms, because you could have a bedroom at the second floor and 1 at the first floor. So people really got excited about this, and were really happy when they understood what it was, and they understood that we were probably the only people in the market doing such a thing. And what was also interesting, it was interesting and difficult at the same time for the salespeople and for all the options, because we priced these floors like they were options. We had no base price. We had a base price per floor that was actually entered in the system as an option. That's how we priced the floor. So the salespeople had to know every time to go in the system, click on the options, and that would automatically give you the price of the entire floor plan that they had chosen. Another little problem that we had here was bedroom limits from the cities, because you can't just have as many bedrooms as you want. So they had to count per phase how many bedrooms they were selling. And luckily we ended the neighborhood, we sold out of all the homes, and we have 1 bedroom left over. So we did pretty much what we were supposed to do for the parking limitations. But that's something we had to think up front, because if somebody had come in and they were selling only 4-bedroom homes or 5-bedroom homes, then we would have run out, and in the end we would have only been able to sell 1-bedroom homes. So we watched that very closely. So that was basically everything I have to tell you about the marketing. We did that really fun film that we did, and I see Krista's online here with Gun Jerkins, so that we could explain this. And once people got into the sales offices, the salespeople were able to explain it to everyone, and we printed out 9 individual plans so that you could kind of play on the table with the 9 plans and give it to people so they could go home and arrange their plans the way they want it.
Let me jump in just real quick to kind of, and this maybe set Rob up a little bit, just as an example. One of the things that there's a principle here that we wanted to be able to adhere to, which is, having the infrastructure to do everything Carol just said. In other words, where the electrical plugs go and the plumbing goes, and everything else. We basically said, we're going to create a sort of an infrastructure plan to the most complex one of these designs. So for example, if you look at like plan 3B there, on the top left, it's got the bonus room. And plan 3D, you've got master baths, showers, there's infrastructure there. And so in the case of some of this, and Rob can explain, you would say, as long as we do the most complex plumbing plan first, and we have 84 or 94 examples of that, even though it's probably more than you'd ever want to do, we can go to the plumbers that you're only going to make this one complex thing one time, and then it's repeatable. And if there's plumbing behind those walls, we'll just bury them. If we, and so, because someday someone come back and retrofit their home and do whatever, subject to the parking and bedroom count. So the trick in all this is being able to pre-program as much of the infrastructure as possible so you can flex it, a lot of different ways. And that took a lot of coordination on top of what Carol is saying in terms of how you explain it. But the idea is you can change it down the road. The idea is like you can have 1 bedroom and you can subdivide, someone buys it, has children, whatever it is. And we do that in a lot of our plans, is being able to adapt them. And it all comes down to the infrastructure that we have to pre-program. We only do it once.
So that sets us up.
Oh,
Rob, why don't you take it over?
Okay. So to kind of piggyback on everything that's been talked about, one of the challenges we have in Southern California is that the municipalities want us to pre-plot all of our houses or all of our building units as part of the master plan, and then we're stuck with building that. So we have to have this crystal ball that tells us that we have so many homes with 3 bedrooms, so many homes with 4 bedrooms, so many homes with 5 bedrooms, and we get these things approved years before we actually build, which by that time the market changes. So usually, if most of us builders will have 3 to 5 floor plans, and one of them or 2 of them are a dog, and we end up discounting them to get rid of them because the market's changed from the time that we did our original market survey to the time we actually get these things built. So part of the challenge of making these things modular was to be able to offer different configurations anywhere from 1 bedroom to 5 bedroom, and without changing the exterior of the building. And so the city of Brea was very involved in the look of the exterior. So once we determined what the exterior is going to look like, we couldn't change it from building to building along with the floor plans. So as Richard said, we started with the footprint of each unit, and we started with a couple layouts and to determine where the windows would go in every unit. And then we kept the units there, or the windows there. So the window locations, exterior door locations never changed. So regardless of whether it was a 5 bedroom or a 1 bedroom, the exteriors always stayed the same. And then we designed the building so that we could build the building in its entirety all the way through roof without having to put any interior partitions in. So all of our shear, all of our structure, all of our bearing points, everything is in the exterior walls and in the firewalls. So starting with the foundation, we would put the drain lines in for every scenario. So you can see in the foreground some of the black pipes sticking up. So not knowing whether on the second floor the kitchen was going to be in the front of the unit, the middle of the unit, the back of the unit, we had to make sure that we had the drains and the vent pipes ready to go. And so we were able to build the exterior shell of the building and build the firewalls, put the stairwells in, and get the whole thing done and approved and pass exterior shear inspection before we had to start the interior partitions. And that allowed the sales team all the way up to the point of us putting a roof on to sell the interiors. Normally, we call those a C1 option, or options that need to be chosen before we even start the foundations. Well, the way this was designed, those decisions didn't need to be made until after the roof was on. This also allowed us, as we went up from floor to floor, you can see in this picture on the first floor in the background, you'll see drywall up. So we're able to put all of our firewalls up as we went up. And this is important because it saved us a ton of money. Whereas normally when when the drywallers come in to do the firewalls, they're piecing it in between partitions and those type of things. Whereas we had no walls and they could just go right up the firewalls, and so we got production rates instead of piece rates, and that saved us a lot of time and it saved us a lot of energy. So with this type of building and the code requirements, we did not put any mechanicals in the firewalls. So the firewalls stand on their own. So as we went up, we insulate them, we drywall them, and we leave them alone. And once we start the interior partitions, we are actually building a unit inside a unit. So then we put all of our what we call skid walls, which is a secondary wall up against the firewalls. And so all of those units had to be within measurement criteria. And as we put the interior partitions in with the skid walls that we call them on the outside, and then the exteriors, and the interior partitions, then that's where all our mechanicals would go. So we we could build the shell, come back, put the interior partitions in, and then when the mechanical trades came in, they handle it just like a normal 3-story town. They run their wiring, run their plumbing, run their HVAC normally. And it was hard to get them to understand that concept, but once they got it, they truly appreciated the efficiencies. The other thing that we did was we panelized these. So we built these panels offsite and brought them on. And this did a number of things. The most important thing, and we've got, you can play this video, you can kind of see how efficient it is in going up. And you can play it and I'll just talk over it. But what it did was, normally when you start a building, you have a layout guy goes out there and he lays down all the plate and he marks where all the stud locations and all the cripples and all the jack studs and jam studs. And it's not always done consistently. And if my framer has a rough weekend and he might start on the left side one time and work towards the right, or he might start on the right side and work towards the left. And what that does is it changes your stud cavities. So panelizing them, doing it offsite and doing it on a computerized basis, all of those interior partitions are consistent. And so we always knew that there'd be a certain stud cavities for plumbing, certain stud cavities for electrical, and it never changed. And that made it extremely efficient from putting things together on that side. The challenge was the HVAC. 3-story towns are a challenge anyway, trying to get heat from the roof or cooling from the roof down to the first floor, trying to get it zone damper, trying to get it balanced. So we went with the ductless system, and that worked phenomenal. So then all we're basically doing is running PEX pipe through the walls, and that made a big difference in being able to put our HVAC together.
Let me interrupt Rob just for a second
Yep.
here, because I think there's a important, or go ahead and talk about the video. I want to kind of talk about one thing that is key to what you just said for our listeners here.
So we did two things. As you can see, the panels go up fairly quickly and fairly consistently, and they're built off-site. They're built on a table. They're nice and square. The other thing that we did that nobody in Southern California had done previously is we used a wood I-joist floor system, but we pre-cut it all. So that way, when it went out to the job site, all they had to do was assemble it. And that way we also knew that the floor systems were put together exactly the same every time. So all of our floor joist cavities were in the same place. So running plumbing and running electrical was much more efficient. Go ahead, Richard.
So when you hear him saying, we did this and we panelized that and whatnot, and panelization is not new, and you can kind of take what he was saying, and if you could follow it. The one thing that is important to kind of picture is before he did any of that, before any of that happened, they reduced the normal building drawings, if you will, to a set of, essentially a kit of parts. So he was able, with our construction crews, there was a process we used called build it on paper. So if it's like, imagine it like anything else, if we went and bought a scale model at which no one does anymore, at the hobby store, or whatever, and you have a kit of parts and it says glue, piece A to piece B. There's a whole schematic. They basically did that. So why don't you talk about, because everyone can talk about panelization, modularization, but there's a pre-programming and building it stage that takes dedication and know-how. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So how this thing went together was not typical of how we normally build things. And so how the parts and pieces fit and what had to go when and what preceded each step was getting all mixed up. And so we literally went into an office and took a bunch of sticky notes, and every task that we had to accomplish and every movement that had to be made on that job site was written down on a sticky note. And then we formulated our critical path movement on how this building was going to be assembled, and when we're going to breathe in and when we're going to breathe out and when it was going to be done. And it took a long time, and it took, I think, 3 walls of the office building as this thing stretched out. But we were able to identify every movement and minimize the amount of movements by saying, well, why are we doing it over here? Why don't we do this up front and we only have to do it once? And we have to move these in, and we eliminated probably 98% of the problems that we normally run into on the job site. We did have some things where we forgot that we had scaffold up, and then we had to get interior partition walls in. So we had to figure out a way to do that. And then we had to wait until the exterior doors. We waited till the very end because every floor had an exterior door in it that we can get the interior panels into. So some of those things we missed, but I think 98% of them we got. The other thing is that because we were modularized and everything was exact as far as measurements were concerned, we were able to do some things that normally we don't like it when the cabinet company has to come out and measure. So we knew that because we panelized these walls and we knew exactly what those measurements were, the cabinet company didn't have to come out and measure for each kitchen, and the countertop company didn't have to come out for every bathroom and countertop and every kitchen countertop. And we knew the exact count of all of our tile work and everything else, because it was exactly the way it was supposed to be built and exactly to plan. So I think if you go to the next slide, one of the things that we were able to do was we were able to put in a custom looking stair system. Now, normally these stair systems are, you wait until it's framed and then they come out and measure, and they'll weld it up to your exact measurements, where we were able to approach the stair company in Indiana and say, look, if we put one of these in each one of our units and they're always exactly the same, then what kind of deal can you give us? So basically you measure them once at the model, and after that you just crank them out. And they didn't believe we could do it, but we did. And the key was that the base of that stair system is on a landing. And that landing was kind of our shock absorber. So if there was any measurements that were off in the height from the landing on the second floor to the landing on the first, or to the first floor measurement, we would make that up in the height of that first floor landing. So some of those landings might be 6.5 inches, and some of them might be 7.25, some of them might be 5.5, but that way we were able to use the same dimensions on that stairway every time. And so a stairway like this with solid oak treads and high-end railings that would normally cost us $30,000 to $40,000, we were able to get it at a fraction of that cost, and we were able to get it quickly. So it didn't take them any time at all. We would install it towards the end of the build. There was only about a 3 or 4 week lead time, and what we did is we went out and got some aluminum temporary stairs and put them in place until we were ready to put these in. So we were able to offer a really high-end, what would normally be a high-end option, and we were able to put it in as standard in every single unit that's out there.
Which is a really important component because when you hear terms like modularization and simplification, you think it's sort of like blah. It's like the idea is all the efficiencies we were going to garner is to have this as a high impact standard. So it's, the quest for that, just that drive for efficiency and all that isn't just to save money and for pure efficiency's sake. It's to be able to plow things back in that are above and beyond that you know, that doubles your motivation. All
And
right.
then it was just up to Tracy to sell them.
That's right.
No pressure. You know, just to reflect on what Richard was saying, I would say we definitely hit the nail on the head as far as the aspect of having a really super cool product. I mean, everyone that walked through, real estate agents who've been in the business for 30, 40 years, I've never seen anything like this before. This is amazing. You need to do it again. So that was really exciting and fun to sell. And it definitely did offer that diversity that catered to many different buyer profiles. Like Richard said, again, there was families, there's singles and young couples, even some multi-gen families, and the different options really gave them the lifestyle that they needed, all in the same amount of space. One of the questions that they asked was, how did I sell this? Because it sure could seem confusing, and I just kind of try to simple it down and said, it's really a lot like building with Legos. You just pick which color you want on each floor and we stack it together. And everyone's like, oh, I get that, especially the millennial buyer, that they could really relate to that. Anywhere from 1 to 5 bedrooms, but it's still the same square footage. And they're like, wow, how do you do that? The floating staircase, by far, like that, just, you get that ooh and ah right when you walk in, that first impression. They're so impressed. And when I tell them, oh, that's included, no way, their eyes get huge. I can't wait to see more. So it was very fun to sell and easy to sell in the respect that it was exciting to talk about. So it wasn't easy, but it was exciting. So some of the favorite floor plans were in, this one is the Model 3, and this had the bedroom downstairs. And what was really great about this option is whether it was a bedroom and the bedroom had the wall, or the den didn't have the wall, it still had a closet and a full bath with a shower. So it was super flexible, whether they decided to get a bedroom or not. I mean, it could still be converted into a guest room if it was a den and an office. So that people were really impressed with, especially if they got a den and they wanted to change it later. They had all the components to make it a nice bedroom, and it was very good size. And that's a pretty good size bed in there. This is the kitchen of the 1A floor plan. Again, between the 1A and, I'm sorry, the 2A kitchen, which is the kitchen up front with a bigger living room in the back, or we kind of would, or the B kitchen, we'd flip it around. I refer to the B kitchen as the big kitchen in the back. I don't know if you could flip to the B kitchen. I'm in the B kitchen right now. I don't know if you can't really see it behind me. But this living room space was the kitchen and the dining room. And there's this huge, probably like 18-foot island that everyone's just like, is that included? I'm like, if you get the B kitchen, absolutely. So it was 50-50. And again, it just kind of depended on their lifestyle. If they were more like entertaining and having dinner parties, they might want to have this B kitchen because it had such a wonderfully big island and a separate dining room. But if they were more like, hey, we're going to hang around the TV and watch movies, then they would, you know, maybe do the A kitchen. They like that, especially if they were barbecuing off the kitchen, they could have their barbecue right off the patio. It's a smaller kitchen, but it is not a small kitchen. I mean, this is still a very good size. I mean, you can see there's 4 chairs on that island. And this little space to the left where the shelves are, that was an upgrade, but otherwise it was a really big pantry as standard, and the standard pantry, people absolutely loved it. Going up to the 3rd floor, it was probably a tie between the traditional 3 bedrooms upstairs, but I think what really made us stand out was the dual master. Everyone loved the dual master because you could have 2 really big size bedrooms. I mean, every community I've ever sold in, do you have a dual master? No, but we do here. And they could still have 3 bedrooms because they could have a bedroom downstairs on the 1st floor, give definite privacy with that kitchen and living space in the middle buffer. And then the 3rd floor, you know, whoever was living there. Typically I would see like singles or like newlywed couples kind of going with this dual master. The families with children, obviously they wanted, you know, the 3 bedrooms upstairs, so they get the big master upstairs with the 2 smaller kids bedrooms. That worked for them. And if they had other family members, that might be the 1st floor. As far as the next gen aspect, if parents were coming to live with them, they would actually prefer the bedroom on the 2nd floor. You would think they'd want to be on the 1st floor because of the stairs, but it was easier if they had a bedroom on the second floor where the main living area was, they'd only have to come up the stairs to come and go from the house. They could actually live in the house on that second floor because their bedroom, there was a full bath there, kitchen and living room. So that really, it just offers so much, and it was just really cool. I was just kind of reflecting before this. Since phase 4, every single home was sold at dirt. So everybody that has bought with us has been able to pick their floor plan. Typically it's about 3 bedrooms, most commonly either the bedroom on the first floor with the dual master on top, or just the bedroom on the first floor, or I'm sorry, just the 3 bedrooms on top, and then 4 bedrooms after that. But no 2 neighbors have exactly the same house. Everybody next door to each other has picked something different, whether it's the kitchen is different, maybe the 3rd floor has 3 bedrooms, but they have a different kitchen, and 1st floor is different. So that's really cool. Any questions?
I mean, just to go and just jumping on what you're saying there is, you know, and actually I was not aware of that degree of diversity that Tracy just stated there. What, you know, during COVID, you know, and whatnot, here as we start to come out of it, you know, there were so many questions about what was going to happen and how he came on track, and it was always of some solace to say there's some degree of adaptability to these products, you know. And I remember hearing a lot, you know, Tracy and Carol discussing of if we had to pre-plot, or if we had to go to the next stage, at least, you know, we're getting buyer input, you know, and we could adapt, because if, as opposed to say a fixed product, you think about our original motivation was you have a plan 1, you have a plan 2, you have a plan 3. They love the plan 1. Plan 2 is those, and no one likes the plan 3, and you wish you could replot. And so the idea was, you know, we would never get stuck in that sort of paradigm. And obviously, you know, we were able to do much better than that. But that was a huge motivation going in, because that's sort of the dilemma that we as builders have on any attached product. You're in sort of a fixed sort of array, and markets change, and your usual remedy is discount them, things like that. But you know, having that diversity, I know you guys were working hard and talking about all that, but those statistics were, I feel a lot better about being on this presentation, but I'll say that.
Everybody's asking for more, so I hope we have it.
Yeah. So just to finish, of course, we don't build for awards, but we're always happy to get them. So we did win the Gold Nugget Award for Best Multifamily Housing Community 15 to 30 to use the acre. And we also won the SoCal Honors for Outstanding Attached Home. Obviously, we should have mentioned from the beginning, it was Bassini and Lagoni that did this project, designed it with us. And they're very excited and happy to do it. So that's basically it. We were excited to be here today. Please, I just saw somebody, there's a question that came through, I think.
Yeah, Twan's got a question. So Twan, go ahead, unmute and take it away.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say that was an amazing presentation and very awesome products and the way you put it together. I have 3 questions. First is, who's the architect on this product again?
Bassini and Lagoni.
Awesome. And then who's the interior designer for
The interior designer was Rooms Interiors. Dee Dee O'Leary from Rooms Interiors did that.
Awesome. I don't think I've heard of them before. And then how do you decide which plans to model? You know, like, because you have different configurations. How do you pick the best one that you think that's going to attract?
We modeled. Remember, so as you live this, we modeled every configuration. We modeled all 9 plans. So we didn't model 29 plans. We modeled 9 plans. So we modeled, you know, because we had the sales office that was a house, and then we had the 3 models. So we modeled, you know, obviously 2 bedrooms and then 2 offices, and then we did the 3 different ones. We showed it twice, the one with a bedroom, and then at the top we had all 4, so people could see it. They could walk the homes, but that's why we were saying in our film sometimes you walk one model home and you like the great room, but you don't like the bedrooms. And another one, you like the bedrooms, but you don't like the great room. That was the whole point, to say, hey, if you need a bedroom down, pick a bedroom down. And then when you go upstairs, so you can choose your own way, just like Tracy was saying in Legos. You don't have to choose it the way we modeled it, mix it up.
Very awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next up, we've got Chad Davies has a question or two.
Thank you. Great presentation. This is a really cool product. Thanks for walking us through it. It sounds like the demand's really high, right? Like everyone that came through, all the realtors, all the buyers were really into this product. Do you plan to build all your attached product like this moving forward, just based on the response?
We would definitely build this product again. We've taken pieces of it, and Carol can expand on it. So that the idea of having a flex design, you obviously you can do it in small part or in large part. So we're always doing it in small part. Well, Carol, why don't you talk about some of the lessons learned? It gets more into like, is there a 3-story towns versus flats? We have new product lines.
All right, so Truflex, we started this a couple of years ago, actually, and it's just, we've expanded it. We just made it bigger and bigger. So the idea was, we did it a couple of years ago in a single family detached, where we put a bedroom next to a master, and that bedroom, you could have it 3 different ways. You could have it as a retreat, or you could have it as a nursery, or you could have it as a gym, or you could have it as, and we built it for you. Or we let you know what was in the walls, so that later on, so you don't have any kids, you want it as a gym, and then you want to turn it into a nursery. We showed you where the doors was, or where you could close it, so that was an option when we started this, to say, hey, let's try to figure out options that are flexible for people that evolve as they grow. And then this was the ultimate Truflex. But even now, we're going to be going into building a lot of flats, and it's sort of the same thing. We have great rooms that are an office next door, or a den if you want, but we always are going to build a bathroom right next to it, because it's a den now, an office now. But when you have that kid, you don't have to move. You just put the wall up, and now you've got your bathroom. So every single one of our floor plans now, we look at them and to say, what could be flexible about this plan down the line, so that people don't have to move immediately.
That makes sense.
We do have 2 flex towns being built coming up in Covina. 3-story town flex at Covina Bowl, and 3-story town flex at Vitapac.
It sounded like you, Rob, I know you were talking about you building the shell and getting that approved with the city, and then kind of reconfiguring the inside based on average bedroom count. Is that something that you could apply to other projects, or something you're already doing? It seems like that's an interesting way to kind of be flexible as maybe demand changes. I'm not that close to this side of the industry, but it sounds interesting how you approach that. Is that something you're going to carry over?
Yes, we actually do have 2 new 3-story town products coming up, where we're going to take the same approach, where the square footage of each unit stays the same, but the floors will flex depending on what's chosen.
Cool. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And Gretchen, is your microphone still not working? Okay, cool. So Gretchen at Kovac Marketing said, what are the top 2 floor plans buyers have chosen of the 9?
Tracy?
I would say it's pretty equal as far as the dual master on top with the 3 bedrooms on top. So if they choose the dual master on top, they would pick a bedroom on the first floor. So it'd be, typically the 3 bedroom count was definitely the most popular, but it vacillated between 2 on top and 1 on the bottom, or just 3 on top. The kitchen, there's 3 kitchens, but it was definitely 50-50 between the A and the B kitchen. So we did have some sales with the bedroom on the 2nd floor, but mostly it was the A or B kitchen. And it just depended on the week, One week it was the A, next week it was B, back and forth. We probably have a pretty even split on those, on all of that. But probably the most impressive one, which I didn't really talk about, like the one everybody absolutely loved and wanted, but didn't buy because maybe didn't work for them was the Supermaster. Like the whole third floor is a bedroom and a huge bathroom with a beautiful soaking tub and 2 big walk-in closets. I mean, that one was really like the most impressive, but probably the least practical.
And Swan says he's got another question, so go for it.
All right, so I have 2 questions. One is regarding planning and the other one's regarding construction schedule. So the first one is how did you coordinate with the city to figure out, the bed counts, versus the parking counts? And then the question about construction schedule is with the different, configuration and how your construction kind of panelized flats, how did you come together to figure out the schedule and account that into your schedule timing? How you have to come together and create these sticky notes and put them together and find out who's going to go in first and coming out. So how did that kind of work out?
Well, for the city, I can answer that question. The city gave us approval to do this project, and under the conditions that we had, can't remember exactly, maybe Tracy remembers, the 234 parking, that's right, 234 bedrooms. We could not go over 234. So we came up with an Excel spreadsheet that calculated the number and how many bedrooms you had left. So in order not to complicate things, we just did it phase by phase. We tried to stay with the allotted bedroom count phase by phase, and that worked. So that, we didn't have, luckily we didn't have any issues with that because we followed.
But like if we'd have sold a bunch of 5 bedrooms, just theoretically, it would have limited our ability down the road. We kind of argued with them about that and sort of had to make the case of it's so hard to predetermine, and you can do a lot of regulatory things. As it turned out, like Tracy said, we had kind of the happy medium there, but we were aware that we could get boxed into a corner in it potentially. We didn't fortunately, but
I think Rob's going to talk to you again about how he planned this building out. I mean, it was
schedule. That's a good question.
Build it on paper. So that's what he was telling you. He built it on paper with the entire team before, but it was the same thing for sales and marketing. We had to review and review again because it was completely different than anything we had ever done before. So everything had to be, not to make mistakes, because you can only imagine if somehow we made a mistake and Tracy had sold and the person said, no, I wanted the deck on the back, you made a mistake. I mean, we didn't build anything because that's a big thing. It's one thing when you put in the wrong colored tiles, you change out the tile. It's another thing to build a unit that's completely wrong. And that could have happened had we not been really, really watching every step.
So when it came to our construction schedule, Richard talked at the beginning of his presentation about a product that we have in Anaheim, and it's a 3-story town, pretty traditional, but it had a lot of extra construction in the parapet walls and the bump outs and all kinds of things that just took a lot of extra time. So that product we did in 152 working days. When we started this product and trying to figure out how we were going to assemble it, we really didn't have any preconceived notions about how long it would take us. So like I said, I tried to identify every task and how it would fit in this puzzle and how we could do it most efficiently. And this schedule came out at 120 days, even with all the moving parts and pieces. So we were able to cut 6 weeks plus off the construction schedule.
I think what that means, literally, where you're looking at a product. I mean, if we stood out and we walked around and did product A and product B, and they kind of are all the same, and yet there's that difference in terms of time. It's just that proves the point right there of, it's not just how it looks and lives. It's obviously critically important, but how it comes together. Constructability in today's world is everything.
Now we've got more of a marketing related question. So where are buyers coming from? Are there a lot of locals, Whittier, Brea, Yorba Linda? Are they moving from the coast, LA, or a total mix? Very curious about the buyer profile. And are there more families or couples and the age demographic? So I know we've shifted a little bit from like the beginning of selling this community to now. Tracy, do you want to tackle that, or Carola?
I can tackle the, I'll talk to you a little bit about what we did, because we really worked on, in the beginning, it was very, very local. And then with Gun Jerkins, Krista over there, you can talk about it. We started trying to get that LA buyer. And we were like, why, don't they come? It's so much less expensive. And at the end, they finally arrived. So at the end, we had a lot of people coming from LA, from like downtown LA. And so I think, Trace, you can take it up from here and talk about the demographic and that switch.
Yeah, definitely a lot of LA coming in the second half of the game, and they were just like, we're so tired of LA and spending twice as much on rent than what we could buy out here, and they love the contemporariness. Definitely the millennial buyer, it was our primary focus. A lot of young families, hence the 3-bedroom count upstairs, and then a lot of like maybe couples not married and buying their first home together, or a lot of newlyweds or just getting married, and a lot of first-time home buyers, surprisingly, even at this price point. A majority of them were first-time home buyers coming locally. There was a lot of local, all those little towns that you said, Fullerton, Whittier, Placentia, all around here, and then a lot of LA, not so much from Riverside County, not too many from there, but locally around here.
All right. That concludes the questions I've got on my end. So if anybody has anything they want to add or feel like they haven't gotten info, go ahead. Oh, Bill, go ahead.
Quick question. Did you guys consider using the BIM process in the design?
That's a great question, and we weren't there yet. We weren't sophisticated enough. I think knowing what we know now and knowing the technology and the different degrees of BIM that's out there, we would probably have incorporated it. But what we did was we used the MyTech software, and we actually programmed that into a panel saw, so that we had a 3-dimensional layout of every panel and how they put together. And so that helped us up front. If we would use that in conjunction with BIM, we might have saved ourselves a little bit of headache, but I question as to whether or not our sophistication was at that level that we could have done it. But with the MyTech software, we were able to lay out every floor in 3 dimensions, label every panel, know exactly where it was, know exactly where all our stud cavities and headers were before we even assembled our panels. And then fed that information into the saw. What we want to do now is get that BIM technology to talk directly to our saw, so that we don't have to go from what the architect has and then program it by hand into the software for the saw. We're going to try to get those two things to talk together, and then I think we'll be miles ahead of most.
Did you guys build the plant panels yourselves, or did you hire that out?
Ask that again, please.
Did you guys make the panels yourselves, or did you hire that out to a sub?
Well, a little bit of both. We actually went out and purchased our own saw, our own computerized saw, and then we worked with our lumber supplier for the location and a framer to do the labor, and we actually kind of put the framer into the panel business, and so they provided the labor to assemble the panels, and they assembled them right there at the lumberyard, so then the lumberyard could use their trucks to deliver them to our job site.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so how many are left to sell and close, and they would love to come tour our products sometime? So unfortunately, but fortunate for us, that we're sold out of our product, but we do have 2 models left for sale, right, Tracy? 1. Okay, we're down to 1.
The master bedroom
Sold
is
1
for
today.
sale.
The sales office is available.
Sales office is available. You can go tour them, but hurry.
Yeah, hurry before we convert. But yeah, so hit up Tracy and she'll give you the grand tour, but quickly. Let's see. Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Cool project, actually. I really like it. I have a question about the HVAC, sort of how the decision was made to go away from ducts, and if having the mini splits, had any impact on home buyers' thoughts and feelings behind that, and also if there was any gas involved.
Rob?
You're on mute.
Rob, unmute.
Story of my life. I can answer from the construction standpoint, Chris. We could not figure out how to efficiently put a traditional system in there. And when all the walls were moving, the ducts we didn't have chases to get from the roof down to the first floor. And so they did not, so if different combinations would not allow that to happen. And so then we looked at, well, maybe we put two systems in, one for the first floor and one for the first two. But then we ended up having to put lots of soffits and those type of things, and it just detracted from everything. So that's pushed us into the mini splits. And the mini splits actually worked out well. It was our first foray into that technology. But I think, overall in a 3-story town, it's probably the most efficient way that you can heat and cool those, especially if, you're hanging out in the second floor and nobody goes down the first floor or vice versa. You can pinpoint all of your heating and cooling needs. It's a little more expensive, but in the long run, it was a lot quicker and a lot neater. And then we were able to put our units up on the roof behind the parapet walls and hide them up there.
Yeah, on a kind of business policy aspect of what he just said is, I would say it did create a little angst for us. I mean, I think there was some questions of, is it going to work? How they look? So I think another example of that efficiency, allowing you to drive sort of the extra mile, we picked one that looked a little cooler, a little more techy, from a marketing standpoint. And then they can control it, the technology where they can control it room to room. And I think that overcame a little bit of the trepidation we had of, it's not the same as usual, and it's not as efficient, and I know we see all of our customer scores, and the bottom line is it's working. It was never an issue, which I think is kind of the best thing that could have happened. People just accepted it and we've rolled. It's been good.
It wasn't that easy getting it by sales and marketing up front. In fact, in the words of Carola,
he's right.
I wanted a nicer unit because the unit you picked out was not nice. I wanted
my units are either going to look like an RV or a cheap hotel.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Anyway, we put more thought into it than we needed to, and it was more widely accepted.
No. We put the exact right amount of thought into it. We have nice units, and they are Wi-Fi, because when you're sitting there, that's cool. You can turn them on and turn them off. Tracy, what do you think?
It was a big question, but I tapped on like what you said, Rob. We sold it on the efficiency and the flexibility. If you're not downstairs, you're not upstairs, you don't need to run them. When you want to turn them on, they come on really quick, and saving money with the solar panels. It really made sense, especially on the second floor. We've got these 10-foot ceilings. It's a lot of space, but you have an AC in the living room. You have a different AC in the kitchen. And for the most part, they questioned it, but at the end of the day, they thought it was really cool. A lot of our overseas buyers were already comfortable with it because they were used to seeing this, wherever they came from, India, Korea, you name it. They're like, oh yeah, we know about this. We love it. They sell them on the efficiency, and they were sold. It wasn't too hard of an obstacle.
On the technical side, a couple of things that we did, because we had them on the parapet roofs, we had wall-mounted brackets. So if you're gonna put them on a deck or on a rooftop deck, you can actually mount it to a parapet so they're not actually sitting on the roof deck. And so, saves you risk of potential leaks, when you have an AC unit on top of a TPO. And then plus it can save you space, like at a deck. If you're doing mini splits and you need a condenser, you put them in a deck. They're super quiet, very efficient, really quiet. not like your traditional condenser, and then you can mount them on walls if need be to, for convenience. One thing to kind of plan out when you're using them, they use pumps for the condensate line, but if you have gravity fed, you don't need a pump. The best ones is if you can gravity feed it and put it into a P-trap is the best way to go. Otherwise, you're having to do a pump to pump it up and over. And two is when you're mapping out, how many units and how many condensers. The thing is, you can put 3 to 4 units on a condenser. If one cooling on the 3rd floor, the other one cannot be heating up on the 1st floor. So you have to plan out, okay, when these units are on, it's just for cooling or just for heating. You can't split that, on one condenser. You have to have multiple condensers to split if you because somebody might be downstairs where there's hardly any windows, it's nice and cool, and the wife feels cold and she wants to turn on the heater. But then if you're on the rooftop and then on the 3rd floor and it's hot, and gentleman's going to want to turn on the cooler, one of them's not going to work. It's either going to heat or cool. It can't do both. But besides that, that's probably the only technical question that's ever came up, with homeowners. So, and that's just, planning it, a little bit forward planning on that point, on that aspect.
That's Martine, by the way. Everyone, he wasn't on when we first started. He's our director of combined operations, but basically he makes sure that all of our jobs are running. And who knew that HVAC was going to be so involved?
He has like a picture on there, right? It's like on the.
He's in in space. He works from Mars.
He floats over all the projects.
Yeah.
Make sure that we're all good.
I'm working with Tesla right now.
Yes.
No, I don't. We're a little over 5:30, and I want to
SpaceX.
give everyone's time. But if there's any additional questions, just go ahead and shoot them to my email, rbuttigieg@trumarkco.com, and I will make sure to get you an answer. And other than that, we've got our NextGen bonfire on Thursday at the Balboa Pier. There should be more info for that online if you guys want to join us. We're happy to be back in person. Hopefully this is our last virtual event for the foreseeable future. And thanks. Lindsay, do you have anything before we log everyone off?
No, just I hope to see you guys all at the bonfire. Excited to see you guys in person. And thank you to our panel for taking the time to speak. I really enjoyed the presentation. The product is really exciting, and I think I'm going to have to go see it before you guys convert to models.
Thank you for thank you for having us present.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
wish we could go to the bonfire, but we're not the next gen.
I get so many comments about that. Like, why do I have to be under 40 to come to your event? We're not discriminatory.
We have exceptions.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.